we souped this car up a little bit. When I say souping it up, I mean not really, but sort of. Told the whiff to get fog lights for it. That was a thing to do at the time. Buy aftermarket kits at the auto parts store. Found one. They were halogen. There was no such thing as LED in these days. And they kind of had a bluish tinge to them. I think I still have them. I had I did not have these on my. Oh yeah. All right. Anyway, so bought these at Pep Boys, I think it was, and installed them. And the front of the car, it dressed up the front of the car. It looked good. It really did look good. It looked mean in the front, especially with those lights on. And the bluish tinge to them, that, it was good. It was really good. They didn't last long. They lasted a month, and they weren't blue anymore. So I went back to the store. I said, "Listen, bought these fog lights. They're still on the car. All right, but can you come outside? Can I show you?" And he said, "Sure." And I showed it to him. I said, "Now take a look at the ones in the store." I said, "This is a month." He said, "All right, no problem. I'll exchange it for you. That's fine." So I said, "We got one problem. There's a little fly of some kind in here. That's odd. With one little problem. I had to modify the mounting bracket for it. I had to drill a hole in it for each one. So what I'd like to do, if possible, is I'll take the lights off the car and give you that, and you just give me the new lights out of the box and keep all the wiring and everything, because it's already run, it's installed. Keep everything. I'll just put the defective lights in there. There's that little fly thing again. I'll just put the defective lights in the box and you take it back." He said, "No problem." And it was as simple as two screws for each light and two wires. They unplugged. It was plug and unplug. And swapped out in like 5 minutes. No problem. Those lights worked. I seem to remember I wrote a letter to the company, and I don't remember what happened with that, but I still have those lights in the garage somewhere. They're never going to be used again, but they're there. I think they were still on the car when my dad eventually took ownership of it. But anyways, let's see, what else? We used to drive that car to upstate New York, about a 3-hour trip or so. 2.5, 3 hours. Wasn't that far upstate, but it was far enough. It went. Did that for a couple of years and drove it around. Oh, there was a time where we were upstate and we started kind of quote unquote exploring. We were going on roads that were private, that people have shotguns. And we went up this road that didn't look like it was private, but apparently it was. And it turned into the rockiest, craziest fucking road that I swear the car was on a fucking angle like this. I was going to fall out of my seat, is how steep this was. And you could not stop because it was all gravel. So when you let off the brake, you're going 90 immediately. And when you'd step on the brake, the wheels would immediately lock up and the car would just slide. I got it out of that. Fortunately, we were facing down, so it wasn't a big deal. And we got out of that, and we drove it around upstate, and it was there. It was reliable. It worked. And then I remember we had her brother in the car. I don't remember the full details, but we drove him home. How he got there in the first place, I don't remember. Her parents, his parents, their parents had a trailer upstate that they would camp in. It was parked at a campground. So I think he went up with them and then stayed like an extra day or two and came home with us, something. He stayed in their trailer, something. I don't remember exactly. No, we stayed in that trailer. Huh. I don't know. I can't remember now. I honest to God can't remember. Um, we're driving home. We had the AC on. It was summer. Vacation kind of thing. And the AC, as little air as it actually blew less and less and less. And it suddenly wasn't cold anymore. Well, it turns out it iced up. That's a sign of low refrigerant. And that's exactly what we were faced with. I shut it off in time, not very long. It defrosted. Turned it back on. It ran for 10 or 15 minutes, iced up again. Back and forth, and didn't work anymore. Took it to some guy. He fixed it. That fix didn't last long. So that was a total waste. Oh, and another time, soon after it was purchased, something else with the AC. Car's running. Okay, everything's good. You go to switch on the AC, the engine would fucking stall. Because the compressor was locked the fuck up. The compressor locked the fuck up. AC, ice cold. Yeah, oh yeah. That could have been the name for this, but... Anyways, there was that. The locked up compressor freed itself. I shit you not. Like a week later, it just magically turned on and worked like nothing ever happened. Very, very peculiar. I can't understand that. The temperature light. I don't remember if this was before or after. I remember it was fall once. And the radiator fan had an electric radiator fan. The fan motor went bad. Oh, I think I found this out because putting the AC on, it would kick that on. And it no longer did. And I ran 12 volts to it, and it didn't run. So her dad and I worked on that in the fall. And we replaced it. And I remember we sat there for like 15, 20 minutes and let this car, which was ice cold at the time, warm up to operating temperature until it finally kicked the fan on. And then we were satisfied. And then that worked fine after that. It was just the fan motor itself that went bad. You could buy just that motor, and we did, and we replaced it. I don't remember if this other thing was before or after that, but there was one time we were out driving. It was summer, and we're just driving. Everything's fine. And like I said, didn't have a temperature gauge. It had a temperature light. Just temp. Okay, that's really weird. Let's pull over. Because typically that temperature light would come on when it's already too late. We pulled over. Open the hood. It's running fine. The radiator fan is blowing as hard as it could. Hot air, hot air coming out of it, out of the radiator fan. The radiator is nice and hot. The fan's running. It has not boiled over. It's not low on coolant. It was just a complete mystery. We let it sit and cool off for a while, got back in, no temperature light, drove some more, temperature light again. Still not boiling over. Radiator fan's still working. We put the heat on in the car on high, which was great in the summer, let me tell you. And the lights still came on. And I remember talking to her dad, and he said, if that fan is running and this thing is not boiling over, just drive it. And we did. And the light went out and never came back. Just totally weird. No idea why. Very strange. The turn brake lights, the things in the back that are red, had shitty connections for the bulbs. So we'd be sitting on the waiting to turn at the traffic light onto the main road where our old apartment was. And you're sitting there and you got the blinker on. You're sitting there waiting for the light. And it was, you'd wait. You know, you're sitting there waiting. And sometimes you put the blinker on and it wouldn't blink. This did the opposite of hyper flash, where it didn't flash. So I would say, hold on a second, and I would get out of the car, go around to the back, go to that left-hand brake light, smack it, and then it would start blinking. That was fun. Usually only when it was cold. Cold out, you would do that. You could blink it manually. Just, it did. The fog lights put on, told you souped it up. I even put a full alarm system in this car with power door locks and a key fob remote. I wired all of that in. Oh, and that was another fun one. AC ice cold, I'll tell you. Wired all of this in. Oh, that was another good one too. Yeah. I put a switch in so you could manually lock and unlock the doors electrically by, you know, cars they have the button. So I had that, and it was hooked to an alarm with a remote where you'd go beep beep and it would unlock, and then you could lock it, and it worked. Oh, and pop the trunk as well. I put in a solenoid for that. Tore apart the doors, installed all that, ran all the wiring, did everything right, put relays in for everything, and still got fucked. Twice. I got fucked twice. One day she calls me up. She was working nights at the time. She says, I just got back to the apartment and I can't get out of the car. What does that mean? The door is locked. Unlock it? It's not working. Does the it have a slider thing for the lock? That's how it was designed. I said, what if you do it manually? Move the slider thing. It won't move. What? Alright, I'll be right there. 10 minutes later, I'm there. She rolls the window down. I poke my head in there and I look and it's locked. And I try to... It won't move. It won't unlock. The fuck? That's weird. Huh. Alright, give me a minute. I'll be right back. I go in the apartment. I had some tools there. And I took a blunt instrument, something like a brass rod, and put it on the slider and hit it with a hammer, and eventually it slid open and she got out. I took the car and I took a look at it. I found that the door lock module that I put in had failed. And the reason it failed was we had a lot of rain. And the rain got in there and killed the motor. The motor, it wasn't solenoid actuated. It had a little, like, hobbyist electric motor and a whole gear train. And it would move a slider in and out. And it had a metal arm and a thing, I used to call it a keeper. I don't know what the actual term is for it. It had a slot cut in the top that would go on the existing rod in the door with the set screw tightened down, and then the rod from the actuator went in this block, and there were two set screws on that, so it operated as one. So this thing could push and pull the rod and lock and unlock the door. Well, the rain got in there because the seals around the window were just GM. So that failed. I said, all right, well, that's unfortunate. That wasn't really the car's fault. It was just a fun one that happened. And then it failed again at another point where a relay welded itself on and burned the motor out because it would only go, and then it's against as much force as it could possibly produce, and the motor just burnt up, and that went open circuit, and it didn't kill the battery, but it just didn't work anymore. So I had to replace the relay and the module, door lock module, actuator, whatever you want to call it. The transmission shifted fine. There was never any trouble with that. The whiff at one point went to Best Buy. I don't know why. She just went and did this, and I was thoroughly pissed about that because I could have done this. And she said, "Hi, I have a car. I'm a lady. Here's my pocketbook. I want a new stereo." They didn't sell her everything, but she could have gotten away with a lot better, probably for less. It wasn't bad. Maybe she wanted a CD player. I don't know. She got what she wanted. It worked. I still have the rear 6x9 speakers. I think they're Sony branded. They sounded horrible. I still have them. They just sound off. And they always sounded that way, even from brand new. Both of them sound exactly the same. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know. They just did not sound right. But I still have them for something. I don't know what. Or exactly where they are. They're in the garage somewhere, but I don't know. So it had a stereo. That eventually had one of those removable face plates that would flip down so you could put a CD in. And eventually the connection on that got shitty and it didn't work anymore. And I don't remember the rest of the details with it. Ultimately, her father was diagnosed with a terminal illness, which I can tell you, it's called ALS. Remember the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge? Yeah, that was meant as a way for you to donate to ALS and not to take the challenge. So if I recall, the way it was supposed to work was if you were nominated for this Ice Bucket Challenge, you could donate $100 to ALS, which would be the right thing to do, Or you could donate $10 to ALS and take the Ice Bucket Challenge. Isn't the idea to donate to the organization? And if you were that hard up for the money, then you would donate the $10. You know how many people didn't even donate the $10? The Ice Bucket Challenge just went viral, and ALS got nothing. And her father died at a young age from this. So that's a sore spot that people took it totally out of context. But he no longer was able to drive, and she inherited the 2000 Camry, which she drove from 2005 up until 2022, when it was tragically destroyed in an accident with 180 something thousand miles on it. That car, it had its issues, as any car will, but far, far, far less issues than her other three cars combined over the extended life that that vehicle was in service. Amazing. Amazing. So it goes to show that people always say, oh, Toyotas never break. Toyotas are super reliable. And then you get somebody who gets one with 180,000 miles on it, 200,000 miles on it, and things start going wrong. That's because the car has that kind of mileage and or is many years old. Parts wear out. Period. They simply wear out. It happens. Okay? That's it. It's not that Toyotas don't break, it's that they break less. And that makes them more reliable. But just getting back to using Cavalier as a name. Why do you want to have a car that is disdainful? And it sure was. It served its purpose, but eventually she got the Camry, and we had to get rid of that car. And I said, well, one thing is for sure, we're not calling Heritage for the blind, because we were blinded by that last time. Now, I still wouldn't have any problem with donating money to them, but not a car and getting ripped off like that. Because if I donated money to them, that would be a tax-deductible expense. So there is that, okay? But giving an entire car and getting nothing in return, that was bullshit. I never did figure out how blind people drive cars either. But that's another story here or there that I'll never figure out the answer to. Another one was we were looking to get rid of this car, and as such, my dad was sort of looking for a car at the time, and he accepted it begrudgingly. It had sat in the neighbor's driveway. They were nice enough. They had two driveways, actually, the neighbors of her parents, as she's milling around right now. They had two driveways, and they said, sure, you can store it in our driveway, just not forever, kind of thing. They were old people. They were real nice, and that was that. So we did, and my dad finally took it, and it was misfiring like crazy when we started it up. The brakes had locked, seized up on two of the wheels. And he had that car. The AC didn't work for very long, if it was even working at all. The ignition module went out on it. He replaced that in the winter. Took him 3 days because of how GM buried the fucking thing. Abysmal engineering. Then it went out again, and he brought it to a mechanic. It still ran, not well, but he could limp it there, and brought it to have it replaced. And then it went out, was going out for the 3rd time, and he said, that's enough with this thing. And of course, there was the time when the alternator on it died, when my mother was driving it, and she promptly ignored that. There's an old war story on that. I got a video on that one. You can watch that. There's a link in the prescription. So yeah, all kinds of good stuff for you to watch. If you haven't, shame, shame. But otherwise, that is pretty much going to wrap this up. I can't really think of too much else that went wrong with that car. It was, when it ran fine. It was no great shakes at all. It had no pep, no power, nothing special about it. It was just plain. Very plain. In the end, it was just, the motor mounts were shot, the transmission, you put it in gear, like, okay, let's go drive. Now it's in drive. Like 5 seconds. That's not normal. Alright, reverse. Okay. Now it's in reverse. Neutral? Good. Drive? Plunk. There it is. So that was another fun one. There was something else that caused that problem. I don't think it was the transmission. No, maybe it was. It probably was. I can't remember anymore. I don't remember if my dad would remember. But anyway, that car was junked. Oh yeah, and one other last thing I just remembered. Right after she bought it, we finally drove it on the highway, and the steering wheel was going... The fucking front wheels weren't balanced. And I went and had them spin balanced because I didn't want to deal with that fucking slime ball. Anyway, she ended up with a much better car that would still be on the road today if it weren't for that accident. There's videos on that too you can watch. Yeah, a lot of stuff. Hosted by Jay, so what could possibly go wrong? Anyway, listen, I thank you very much for watching, and I really appreciate it. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.